Episode 96, the Thanksgiving episode. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Visionary Variety Podcast. I am Daniel Grove, your host. We also have with us the other host, Nate.
Hey.
So Thanksgiving has actually already happened, but due to the fact that, we don't spend every waking hour planning this podcast, we're behind a week, so forgive us, or two. So Nate, actually, you proposed this idea to me of, doing an episode to kind of give a shout out and to honor all the guests and, interviews and things like that we've done on the podcast, just to give a big thanks to everyone that has helped with the podcast and gotten us to where we are now. So this episode's going to be kind of a mashup of a few different things. First, we want to talk about and say thank you to all of our people that we've had on the show that we've done interviews with, as well as the other, regular guests that have helped us with episodes. We're going to talk about our favorite episode, and then we're going to close it out with talking about what we're thankful for in our personal life and some professional stuff too, what we're looking forward to for next year. So kind of just a bunch of thanks, I feel like giving thanks is super important. As a Christian, I believe it is an important principle spiritually to be thankful to not just to God, but also to people. And outside of the religious discussion, I think it is still important to acknowledge people and to acknowledge the fact that you're thankful for people doing certain things for you. Because, if you just go through life without any thanks or acknowledging people, I feel like you're not going to get very far.
And, humbug.
People around you are not going to feel too great if you're just taking and using and you're not giving back with some things.
Yeah.
So being thankful is a huge part of my life, and this episode will hopefully reflect that. All right, so let's start with the reoccurring guests that we've had on the episode. Now, first, I had to have Angela. Angela Brock is one of our OG members. I mean, she started the podcast with us.
Yeah.
So in early 2018, when we planned and recorded the first few episodes, Angela was on the show with us, and we try to have her on as much as possible. Sometimes her schedule doesn't permit, or sometimes the topic isn't quite up her alley, like photography, videography. That's not her thing. She's a very, very talented artist. I encourage you to look up Art by Angela Brock on Facebook, and your mind will be blown because, man, her portraits are they look like photographs. Very, very good art. But and every episode isn't quite, her thing, but we love to have her on the show. So big thanks to Angela for helping us start the podcast and, lending a lot of her ideas and suggestions to making it what it is now. Another reoccurring guest is Josh Howell, and that's actually Nate's second uncle, great uncle?
No, cousin.
He's your, oh, okay.
So he's my dad's first, so my second, or he's my dad's cousin and my first. It depends on who you talk to.
Family trees. No, Josh is awesome. He's a nerd just like us, although he likes Star Trek more than Star Wars. We've forgiven him.
Yeah, we let it go.
We moved past that. We had a Star Wars versus Star Trek episode, legitimately just for that.
It felt like it was Daniel and I picking on him.
It kind of was. He got to pick on us too, though.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Yeah, Josh Howell is awesome. Really like when he's on the show because he has a lot of deep thoughts about movies and themes and just general fandom stuff like that.
And he's our comic book guy. Like he did a lot of the
that's right.
digging in way back when.
Yeah, he's old, so he actually read comic books.
He's not that old, but he's old enough to be old, but not old enough to say, dang, dude.
I hope he hears this.
Me too. What's up, Josh?
I'll tag him and be like, hey, we talked about you. Next up is my brother, Gabriel Grove. We've had him on a few different episodes. I think we've been on a movie review episode. What else has he done?
The technology.
Yeah, future technology. AI. He's a big lover of sci-fi, just like me. I mean, we grew up. We're basically clones in a lot of areas.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, it's just the only difference between y'all is you may look a little different and have different names, but it's like talking to the same person.
He's like me, but in shape.
He's
with only one kid.
He's what my New Year's resolution looks like.
That's great. I'm totally going to use that. When you listen to the episodes with us, our voices, you may notice, are very similar. Our sense of humor.
It's only by the different quality of microphones that I can tell y'all apart.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that helps, I'm sure. But our sense of humor, our interests, things like that, our opinions on almost everything are pretty much the same. So it's great having him on. It's kind of like another one of me, just with a different angle. And then last but not least is Abby Leone, our movie professional cinemaphile.
The legend.
The legend, the one and only.
I feel like he's the guy that watches every movie just so he can have these conversations with us.
He has seen so many movies and seen movies so many times. I can't even handle it. So when he's on the show, because he went to school for film, he's actually he's writing a film, he's doing screenwriting, he's directed, he's done everything in the movie world, as far as the indie world and production companies go. So he knows his stuff, and it's always awesome to have him on the show because I know it's going to be way deeper than it could ever be without him.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to talk about technology. And then like 2 hours later, he's still telling us like, oh,
yeah,
I love
he's got
him,
more facts, and more experience. I'm like, how do you know this stuff? Yeah, Avi is really great. We love him, and we're hoping to be on his podcast soon. We do a little crossover episode. So that's it for the reoccurring guests that we've had on to help us talk about stuff or give reviews and things like that. Now the next section is actually special guests. So these are people we've had on the show for an interview, or hey, we know that you are involved in this project, or you do this cool thing. Let's talk about this cool thing that you do. Yeah, so we've got, I'm going to try to breeze through this, but we got probably 14-ish or so of these episodes. We're going to list the episode numbers. So if one of these catches your ear, just go back through the episode listing on the website or on your podcasting app and find it, download it, because these are really, really deep.
They're really good.
Yeah, these are really great episodes that I thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, when I had these people on here, I was like, I am not worthy. You're so much cooler than me. You know so much more than me. Thank you for being on my podcast.
We invited the cool people to make us cool.
Totally. Yeah, we're way cooler because of them. And this is something that I'm really proud of for our podcast, is doing so many interviews with a wide variety of people. I mean, we've got a martial artist, we've got 3D printers, we've got visual effects artists, film composers, like everything. So let's just get started with the top of the list. So the first one was episode 10, interview with Mike Brown, the Human Jib. So Mike Brown, Mike is awesome. He owns the Human Jib company, and basically they offer, rent out, and operate really huge camera cranes, also known as jibs, for Beyonce concerts, Taylor Swift, live TV shows, like everything. It's really cool stuff. Yeah. So if you're interested in camera work or getting into that business, if you just like behind the scenes of movies, that's a really good episode. So that was episode 10. Next is episode 32, interview with film composer Brian Christopherson. So Brian is a super geek, just like us. He knows
him so and Abby on the same episode. I think the internet would break. One day we should just tell Gabe, Abby, and Brian, and let us not have our microphone set up and let them talk.
So, hey guys, carry this episode for us.
Go ahead.
So Brian has composed various pieces of music for indie films, as well as I think a TV show. I don't recall his full portfolio. I'm sure it's grown since we've had him on the show. But yeah, he's a musical aficionado. He's really well versed in lots of different types of music. And if you love music or movie music, definitely check that one out. Next is episode 33, which was interview with filmmaker Paulina Manceau.
Yeah.
Probably this episode is definitely on my list of favorites.
Yeah. That was a good one.
It was, because now before we had Abby on the show, we had Paulina, and Paulina also is involved in the indie film, market, industry, whatever you want to call it. And she writes and produces and directs and probably even films some of her own indie films. And like they go on the, they go into the competitions, the film festivals, really cool stuff that I really don't know anything about. So when we had her on there, I was just like, what is all this? This is so interesting to me. But she's very, very talented. She's also an actress. She's been in some of her movies.
My goodness.
Yeah. I photographed her a few times as just for fun and as a model. So awesome woman. Very, very impressive resume there. So that's episode 33. Episode 40 was interview with Chris K, a cosplay photographer. So this guy he's a legend.
Put it this way. It says cosplay photographer. And then he's like, yeah, so when I was shooting pictures for NASA, I was like, wait, what?
He was a photographer for NASA.
It blew my mind because we were coming from the creativity side. And then I was just like, who are you?
Yeah, one of his photos is still on the NASA website. It's like this humanoid robot that was up in space. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Chris K is a genius, really incredible editing skills, compositing, special effects, also just a great photographer on his own right, with lighting and things like that. So I love talking with him, and I chat with him regularly online. So that's episode 40. Episode 55 was an interview with Ryan Littlefield, visual effects artist. That was a cool one. So Ryan was on the show to talk about his previous jobs as a visual effects artist. So he made CGI scenes, he made fake backgrounds, he did special effects for I think the Chainsaw Massacre 3D, something like that, and a few other films.
It was crazy hearing all the backstory of stuff they have to do in like all their server rooms. I'm like, goodness.
Oh man, yeah. I'm all about behind the scenes of like Hollywood movies to see how they made these wild shots that look real. Yeah. And he just blew the cap off of it. It was just so interesting to hear how it all works. So that's episode 55. Episode 57 was interview with Jessie Arntz, the leather armorer. She is like the goddess of leather creations.
For real.
Jessie makes full body cosplays as well as props and accessories, almost purely out of leather. She handcrafts them, cuts them, imprints them. I think she colors them and dyes them too. It's just really, there's like nothing she can't make, basically. And now she does 3D printing. Lots of talent, lots of creativity.
Super creative. I had the privilege of seeing her workspace. I was just like,
ooh, fun.
Whoa. I was like, that's crazy. Yeah.
We should do a video there for the podcast YouTube channel.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Cool. So that was episode 57. If you're interested in cosplay, armor, leatherworking, things like that, check out that one, episode 57. Next was episode 62, book reviews with the Daniels. So that was referring to me, Daniel Grove, and my old friend Daniel Walzak, who I went to college with. Now, Daniel Walzak can listen to an audiobook in like a whole day. I don't know how.
Like 5 times speed?
Yeah, no, he does listen to, I think, 1.5 or 2x speed, which I usually do too.
I think he takes those pills like in Limitless and studies and it comes back to reality.
Daniel's awesome. He's a big lover of fantasy as well as some sci-fi. So we've done, I think, 2 episodes now where him and I just go back and forth on recent audiobooks we've listened to, things we loved about them, things we didn't. So if you're looking for some great audiobooks or novels, definitely check out those episodes. That one is episode 62. And there was another one, forgive me, I don't know what number it is, but it is after 62, where we did a secondary audiobook roundup. I think that's actually what it's called. So there you go. Episode 70 was interview with indie filmmaker Dustin Hawkins.
Dustin.
A lot of indie film people on this podcast. Yeah. 3 of them so far. And so in that one, we talked about his journey through making films, how he got into it, how it all works. And I think he's finished his big project that he talked about on that episode. It was a medieval time traveling film. Ooh. Pretty sure it's done. Yeah, it was really cool. So that was great. Really, really awesome guy. He also does cosplay. I recently edited a Doctor Strange photo of him, which was super epic.
So good.
So he's lots of talents there. Next was episode 82, interview with martial artist Haitao Zhao.
That was a good episode.
This is a crazy thing. Like I literally watched a fighting video on Facebook. I was like, this guy is amazing. Who is he? I found him. I wrote him. I said, this is great. This is a long stretch, but would you like to be on my podcast to talk about martial arts and movies? And he said yes.
That's so cool.
This is one of the few that I don't actually know in person. Everyone else I've had, longtime friendships or have met online. But this is a total stranger to us. And it was a really cool episode. I love karate movies. I love martial arts.
Yeah.
And, stuff like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, those are the kinds of movies that this guy is in. Now, these are Chinese-based films. He has done some projects in America that he talks about, but mostly he flies back to China from Las Vegas and does movies there. Then he comes back home in Las Vegas and he performs with Cirque du Soleil. Like, this dude's awesome.
Yeah, the way you were describing him, I was like, are you sure you're not interviewing Jackie Chan? Because I was like, he does a lot of traveling, and I was just like,
Yeah, he gets around. So that was episode 82. Episode 84 was interview with 3D print artist Justin Moses. Now, this is a local cosplayer that I photographed recently, and I've known him for a little bit. I shot him, I think, in 2017 for the first time, and since then we've kind of built a relationship online. But he's a Star Wars lover. He actually has a really good Mandalorian cosplay and some others that he's made. So he does 3D printing and he makes helmets and armor and weapons and all kinds of cool stuff. And that's something that I've really been turned on to recently because I do 3D design. And I'm thinking, like, what could I do if I had a 3D printer or if I knew people that could print and possibly even sell, my things that I make? The possibilities are endless, So I had him on the show. We talked all about 3D printing, how it works, what he makes, and some really interesting stories about, the tricks and techniques that he uses to accomplish the stuff that he does.
I'm so happy living in the future because you can actually like, I want what I see on the computer, I want in reality. And then like, boom, it's like next day, it's like right there. I'm like,
yeah, well, we may not have space bases or flying cars, but we do have 3D printers, by golly, and they're really cool.
Yeah.
Next up, 2 more here. We've got episode 86. This was the interview with wedding photographers Rochelle and Aaron Voltz.
So good.
Yeah, that was, man, I mean, I learned so much. I learned so much from all these episodes, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not worthy again. But that one was really cool. So Rochelle and Aaron are wedding photographers in Florida, and they are rocking it. I mean, they've only been doing this for a few years, and they're like so far past me, and they're making, decent money. Their photos are beautiful, and they've learned a lot of really great systems to ensure that they're going to be successful. So
yeah, they're a powerhouse.
Yeah, they are. And they're a couple. They both do it together, which I'm so jealous of. It's really cool. So if you're interested in wedding photography or just photography in general, listen to that episode. You will for sure pick up some great nuggets of information there. And if nothing else, inspiration.
Yeah.
Lastly is episode 87, interview with indie music artist Monty Sosa. So this is actually one of Nate's friends. Nate, why don't you talk about this one? Because you did this episode.
Yeah, he is a local artist, and when I say artist, independent on music. He's been doing it for a really long time, but in the last, I'd say maybe 3 to 5 years, he's been really pumping out a lot of his stuff, and it's super cool to have him as a friend. He's kind of like the yin to my yang, which sounds really weird now that you say it out loud, but but he's somebody I can bounce off ideas that has almost a different opinion outside of what I do. So, but it was a really good episode. He broke down a lot of what he does, and I was just like, man, dude, I've known you for X amount of years, and I had no idea. But it was really good, really knowledgeable, and lots of information.
All right, so that's it for our special guests thus far. I'm not sure who our next one is going to be, but you can bet your sweet Biffy is going to be a great episode. All right, so next, let's talk about our favorite episodes. And Nate, since I just was doing a bunch of talking, why don't you go with your list first? I need a break.
I think we should bring up episode 41, Star Wars versus Star Trek. And that was really good. Like I said earlier, I felt like we were picking on Josh, but I think he
deserved it.
He exposed all the holes in Star Wars, too. So
he did.
I feel like I walked away intending to make fun of him and somehow walking away like, wow, okay, well, that's not nice.
That was a great episode. Yeah. I finally got to voice some of my annoyances with Star Trek, but also with Star Wars. Believe it or not, I have some problems with Star Wars.
Oh, for sure.
Serious issues.
And we're a lover of both and a hater of many.
There you go. I think that makes sense. I don't know.
And then again, we had Josh. I'm just gonna tell everybody right now. Like Josh is one of those guys that he's like Daniel, and he's like an encyclopedia. He just knows a lot of stuff. And he was on church media and technology. Now that was really good for the three of us that did the episode. Daniel, Josh, and I. Like our background is church media and media stuff, and actually being able to sit down and talk about just stories, past experiences, the nightmares, the small things, the big success.
Yeah, it was fun just to kind of reach back into our experience and our good memories and some not so good memories and just talk about them.
All great. The troubleshooting, all the MacGyvering we had to do back then. Man. Another episode we did was episode 56, social media tips and oddities. It's interesting when you break down some of these subjects, especially in social media, just the things you find, you're like, that's so odd and so cool. And Facebook just doesn't want you to be able to be seen anywhere, or YouTube does X. But
why do things happen this way?
Yeah. It's fun digging into like behind the scenes stuff because you get to see these are things that we just use kind of like on just a given day for free, for fun, to kill time. Yeah. But if you actually know how they work and can use them for like what we do for business, it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's important to understand how they work and why they work the way they work. It's a free service, but there's a lot of downsides to that. And we talk about that episode. So if you run a business off of Instagram or Facebook, definitely listen to that episode. It's all about marketing and, posting and keywords and getting a maximum amount of reach and reaching people with your content. That was a great one.
Then another episode, before I say the episode, have you ever seen, like, this is like a train crash in slow motion right here, which is episode 47, the Star Wars Holiday Christmas Special, whatever you want to call it. It's awful. This is what it should be called at the end.
The episode wasn't a train wreck.
No, the episode was great.
Special.
That movie, TV show, whatever,
quote unquote.
The awful documentary style, whatever you want to call it, it was not good. And you know what was worse is I was watching it and I fell asleep. And let me just say, those dreams were awful.
It got into your subconscious.
But the conversation of us joking around about just like, what did we watch, was really good and digging into. I feel like personally it really pulled on some of my creativity because you had to take like this episode, like this TV movie, that you're making fun of, and you're like, well, tell me the good things about it. And so I felt like in the conversation that we had with everybody, it really stretched us to figure out, okay, this is garbage, but
what did we like about this? Ugh, I don't know.
I like, my favorite part about the whole movie was like when it was over.
For real, it was like a dopamine release, and it was done.
It was something. I mean, for those that haven't seen it, I say you should go see it and then go listen to this episode. It was fun, a lot of laughing, a lot of joking, and
cringing. Mostly cringing though.
Lots and lots of cringing.
Yep. Every serious Star Wars fan has to watch the holiday special one time.
Yeah, for sure.
Never again. All right. Well, let's talk about my favorites. It was really hard. I had like 10. I was like, I got to narrow this down. I got to cut it down a little bit.
It's like picking your favorite children.
Yeah, it is. I got 6. So 6 favorites here. So first one is episode 29. What if we discovered aliens? So as a sci-fi junkie myself, the topic of aliens often comes up. And, I am curious in the real world, what if we did find aliens? How will we communicate? How would we know that they're actually a thing? Like, will we recognize an alien if we found one? So that was a really fun deep dive. It was kind of intellectual, kind of fun. A lot of hypotheticals, a lot of sci-fi references in that episode. So yeah, if you love aliens and sci-fi and, first contact type stuff, that is a one for you. Next is episode 33. That was, like I said earlier, the interview with filmmaker Paulina Manceau. It was just eye-opening to me. It was very fun and entertaining. I like Paulina as a person. She's fun to talk to, and she just knows
very
so
wise.
Much. Yeah, super wise, super knowledgeable. I mean, as are all of the people we've interviewed.
Yeah.
But that was the first one we had with a filmmaker, and yeah, I loved it. Next is episode 43, The Last Question by Isaac Asimov.
So good.
Oh, man. What a mind stretcher this one was. I loved it.
So good. I mean, the only thing about that episode is I listened to the audio version, and the only thing about that was I called the ending, and I was like, no, I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah, you predicted it. I was impressed. I didn't when I first read it. Did you listen to the Leonard Nimoy version on YouTube? Or the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one, it's got these like 1 minute long sound effects as like a break. Yeah. It's so weird. So 60s.
I'm like, what is happening?
So The Last Question is a short story written by Isaac Asimov, like in the 40s or 50s or somewhere.
Yeah, so far back. Like, he was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, but don't you dare roll your eyes at a sci-fi written in the 50s, because this book will blow your mind. Oh, that's so awesome.
Let's put it this way: if you started reading it to me and didn't tell me if it was way back in the early 1900s, I would have been like, is that current?
Is this from the future?
Yeah.
Did this story travel back in time? Yeah, a really awesome story. Really great episode where we talked about all the different things that happen in that book and the technologies and the far-reaching future stuff. So that was great. Next is episode 79, Is Hollywood Storytelling Dead? So this one was me and Abby Leone, where we talked about the fact that Hollywood's not doing great in some ways. It's doing really good in some areas, but it's really lacking in some, such as original ideas and also duplicate ideas. Why are there movies that are almost the exact same come out the same year? How does that happen? We talked about that in that episode, and also how stories get pitched and presented to a director or a producer, whoever gets it and buys it and uses it as a movie. I've always been curious about that, so that one was really interesting to me. Next favorite is episode 80, How Art Class Made Me a Better Photographer.
That was a good one.
Yeah, this is a huge soapbox I love to stand on and preach about, which is, the very basic principles of art that I learned in art class as a freshman, which no one rarely ever remembers or even thinks about. Those things actually went on to help me as a photographer to be, improve myself and make more artistic photos that were more unique and purposeful. So I found a lot of value in even just basic art concepts as a photographer, which is kind of different. So that was a great one.
What was really interesting about that episode was, I think even now it's crazy to think about how art class made you like a photographer.
Right.
It's not so much about what you do as a profession or a skill, but I think it unlocks the creativity in your mind to let you explore.
Yeah. All right, and last but not least, my other favorite episode I found was the Matrix episode, I guess part 1 and part 2. That was episode 88, and then part 2 is episode 89. So this is one of my favorite films of all time, of course, favorite film franchises, rather. And we finally got to do a deep dive, and it was so deep that we had to split it into 2 episodes. And they're each like an hour long. So
I think that was the episode that had 2 night recordings. That's how long it was.
Oh, we split it up. That's what it was. Yeah.
It was deep stuff.
Yeah, it was great. So if you love The Matrix or if you're thoroughly confused by The Matrix, either one, listen to this episode. We'll sort you out and straighten you up because it is confusing. There's a lot of
Yeah.
philosophy. There's even some theology and there's some sci-fi stuff going on that you don't get the first 2 or 3 or 4 times you watch it. Unless you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, which we did. But yeah, that episode was really fun. The research was super fun, but also just finally kind of spilling the beans about all the things that I've thought about over the years about the Matrix and things that I've learned about the Matrix. Finally got to come out, and it was really great. And everyone else on the episode had some really great stuff to talk about too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
super fun. Yep. So that's it for our favorite episodes. Now let's close out the episode by talking about what we're most thankful for, just kind of like for the past year, I guess, for 2019, and maybe what we're looking forward to for the next year. For myself, I am like really thankful for a few specific people because they helped me with my business go to a new level. So the fall of 2018, in the previous year, I learned about something called IPS, which stands for in-person sales. It's a totally different business model for photographers, mostly portrait photographers. And, I love portraits. So I was struggling with, making enough money. I felt like I was working my butt off with great photography, but I just didn't have a lot of money to show for all my work. And, it wasn't supporting my family. It was like a hobby that made a little bit of money here and there. So the people that really helped me that I'm super thankful for is first Jim Landers of Landers Photography School in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And then also my friend Brandy Morgan. So she was a student of Jim Landers. So there's kind of a little triangle going on here. And she just kind of helped pitch these ideas to me in a different way. Because, the way you talk to a friend is a little different than you talk to a teacher. And my friend Brandy was able to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I'm making, this much for this shoot. And it's really great. The clients I've found really appreciate what I'm doing. And at first I was like, nah, it's not for me. It's too expensive. It's too fancy, whatever, too hard. But you know what? I took the jump with the help of Brandy and Jim, and man, it has just changed my life. It sounds super cheesy to say that, but it really has. It's changing my life right now, and it's helping my family, and it's making my photography more purposeful and worth it. So yeah, that's one big thing that I'm hugely thankful for of 2019, and a little ending bit of 2018 is learning to jump into IPS with my portrait photography and really take my business to the next level. Another thing that happened that was huge last year, this is almost like January 1st, I think, was the 60-second docs. They made a video about me. They hired a guy in Austin that came down and recorded a medieval Star Wars mashup shoot that I did, which is still one of my favorites. And so he just got some footage and interviewed me and asked me a bunch of good questions. And they made this 60-second documentary, which is what they do, 60-second docs. I look them up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And it was really, really humbling and exciting to see that just blow up. I mean, it went international. Within the first 2 weeks, I think it had 200,000 views. And it just kept growing. It grew and grew and grew. I was having people from around the world message me. One guy wanted me to come to Slovakia and teach at a convention he was doing. I had a guy in South America want me to do a Skype session and teach his college class. I'm just like, whoa, this is cool stuff. I'm famous, temporary, a little 15 minutes of fame. And currently it's just under 800,000 views. So I was really hoping it to get to 1 million within the first year. Probably won't happen this year, but maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
When the memories start resurfacing and I'll repost it, it'll probably get another jump.
Get another wind.
Another great thing about this year was I was able to network and make a lot of relationships with photographers. I've actually taught a number of them, but also just making, friends on Facebook and just chatting every week or so, like, hey, check out this cool photo I did, or what do you think I should do about this situation? Or, hey, I got this lead I can't take here. I'll give them to you, like that kind of stuff is so valuable and so great to have with other photographers that you might see as competition. But if you get past that and you look at them as a partner, they're helping you along as a partner, that changes the game. And it's been really nice making friends with other people in my industry. So, yep, that's it for me. Nate, what about you?
That's so good. Things I'm thankful for in this past year. It's going to sound like but I'm very thankful for the people that have been in my life that have been kind of like the pillar / encyclopedia, like Daniel, parents, friends, just these people have endless knowledge. I'm just like, how do you know that? But I'm so thankful for it because, I didn't have that kind of structure, growing up in friendships that were, like I said, encyclopedia. So that was super helpful in this past year. And lots of networking. I feel like 2019 was a lot of handshakes and introducing myself. And that kind of makes you realize where you are in your business related stuff. Just not comparing, but just gathering information from others, like basically echoing what you're doing just on the video side. I feel like 2019 was a year of growth on like character stuff, and to be able to have pillars in my life like parents and Daniel and other close friends was super helpful. And also kind of echoing what you were saying, networking. And there was so many handshakes, meetings. I mean, there was like 2 meetings that even Daniel and I got to do together, which was super cool. 2019 was a year of like knowledge and gaining and understanding and light bulb moments, and just being able to have the time and the ability to keep learning. And that was something moving forward. I'm just like, dude, like I'm so ready to
gotta keep learning.
Yeah. Did a couple projects that I was thankful for, kind of out of my comfort zone, but now they're done, and now I can say I did them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the list could keep going. This is just, I mean, I get a weekly podcast. Like, who does that? Like, that's so cool.
I'm thankful for this podcast.
I'm for real. Like, as cliche as that sounds, like, I mean, like I am, because 1, it keeps you on your toes. 2, it keeps you in communication. You have like a community that you build yourself around, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, 2019, I think that's what I'm most thankful for.
Now, in this coming up year, a few things that I'm looking forward to doing is really just continuing down this path of being a profitable photographer. What I was doing before was not profitable. It was like, oh, I made $300, but that I just spent 30 hours. So I just made $10 an hour, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And for my quality of work and my 15 years of experience, like, I needed to move on. So I'm looking forward to this next year to continuing that path. I still have a lot of stuff to learn. I'm really looking forward to improving my methods and, making my photography awesome. I want my pictures to be even better. Like, I know I'm good. I like where I'm at, but I know there's always room to grow with various techniques and editing and, just creativity and stuff like that. So I really want to improve my craft and make it something that's worth what I'm charging, which I believe it is, but I want to make it even more worth what I'm charging. And make it just really incredible. I'm also improving my visual effects skills. I want to learn to do 3D tracking with my 3D work. I want to start incorporating video into some of the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Like, I can edit in Photoshop like nobody's business. But when it comes to video, I want to be able to do that stuff to a video file. Like, I want to put a background behind someone. I want to put the 3D lightsaber like moving in their hand, or put a huge weapon, on their back or something like that. I really want to improve my 3D skills and bring them into the video world. Who knows? Maybe even get hired to do some 3D graphic artwork for artists or companies or whatever.
That'd be so fun.
I wanna try to reach into that world and make some money off of that. And I'm hoping to also improve some of my equipment. I need to get some better lights. I need to replace a few of my lenses with some newer stuff. And I know that I've kind of hit that ceiling of how much I can get out of my current gear, and now it's time for me to upgrade. Not because I want to, and definitely not because I have the money, because I don't have the money right now. But I do need to upgrade some of my equipment so I can go to the next level with what I'm able to do. I know that'll be happening next year.
I think for people that are listening, that ceiling's very high.
It is. So, it's much higher than you think.
Like for Daniel, for some of the things I've seen Daniel do behind the scenes, I'm just like, gosh, dude, like
some of my best photos have been done with $60 lights. The two $60 speed lights. I make stuff that just is awesome, and I was very impressed, and it got me very far. But I've hit the limits of those. I've actually moved past those, and I'm hitting the limits of what I have right now, and I need something better and bigger.
To pick on you a little bit, I think my favorite thing in 2019 is going to be you pulling your lens apart and putting it back together.
That was my least favorite part.
I'm thankful for that moment.
I'm thankful I didn't destroy my lens, although I did cause a little bit of residual damage. But I had to open up my wide angle lens, my 16 to 35 millimeter, and put it back together. I had to do it 3 times, so I learned a lot.
Should have videoed all of it. We all would have cringed with you.
Would have been hours of footage. So I'm thankful I got past that.
I think in 2020, like, just a lot of echoing what you're saying. I think we just got to learn to love the process, because I don't think we're ever going to reach where we want to be, but loving the grind, loving the process, fall in love with that. And then what you want to accomplish is going to be, not that far away.
Yeah.
So as cliche as it sounds, I'm really looking for clear vision in 2020. I couldn't say that straight, but taking what I've taken from 19 and putting in 20, and how can you get better? How can you grow? Yeah, just a lot of open-ended ready for 2020, but just gathering at the moment. It feels like in this last month, I feel like there's just been more grabbing ideas and starting to place them in 2020. So
yeah, prepping for next year. Cool.
whoop, whoop.
All right. Well, I think that's the episode.
Anybody that's listening, people that have helped us in the behind the scenes are on an episode or just being the consumer.
We
We
love you.
appreciate you. We're thankful for you. And thanks for sticking with us on this journey. And we're just excited to keep moving forward with you.
Yeah. And if you're thankful for us, something that you can do, two things. You can share our posts whenever we do a weekly post for the each episode. You know, hey, share it. Tell your friends about us. Tell every single person you know in your entire life about the podcast. All of them. And the second thing you can do is go to iTunes and leave us a little review. We would love that. We only have 2 reviews. We've been going for 2 years. We got 2 reviews. So show us some review love and give us a little review there. Or you can just write us. We also love getting emails and messages from you guys.
Yeah.
It means a lot to us and lets us know, hey, there's actually living people out there listening to our show every week. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. We really appreciate you. And we hope you have a great week. We'll see you next week. If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week. Got that goop up in there. Slime.
I don't know what it is. I feel like I can talk all day and there's none. And then it's my time to shine. I'm like, hairball. My bad.